Why is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
So I had a very pleasant surprise this morning. Well, pleasant in my mind.
Right.
When I woke up at 4:45 in the morning.
Sure.
And I opened Instagram, as I always do.
Yeah.
And obviously, one of my favorite people that I follow many of my favorite people that I follow are the various members of Motley Crue.
Of course.
I open it up, and they're right in front of me, from here to like mid-thigh, so chest to mid-thigh, completely naked, full frontal selfie of Tommy Lee.
This was not a DM.
I wish it was. For a moment, because I was a little groggy, I was like,
right.
Oh,
Tom?
This was just for me?
Right.
You shouldn't have, but you should.
Yeah.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
And it had already been up, no pun intended, for several hours. I immediately after
screenshotting it.
I didn't screenshot it.
Okay.
Because I thought about it. I thought about screenshotting it, which of course I would have sent it to you and a few other friends. And I'm like,
right.
I just don't know that everyone will appreciate this the way I appreciate it. And if the wrong person picked up a phone.
Right.
And then I also was like, I don't want Tommy to know that I screenshotted it.
Yeah.
Although he probably would have, then he wouldn't love me as much. But I did immediately contact my friend and tell her, go check out Tommy Lee's Instagram, to which she
didn't
was
just check out his Instagram.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
To which we also continued to monitor it just for research sake on how long Instagram lets things of this nature stay up.
Of course.
That thing did not come down till almost 10 a.m. Almost 10 a.m.
That's what she said.
And it was so funny because, first of all, I would have known it anywhere.
Right, of course.
Even without the tattoos.
Interesting.
He was coming out of a bath.
Oh, all right. So he was clean.
Water. He was clean. It was touching the water.
Okay.
And all he posted with it was, oops.
So he meant to do.
Oh yeah, completely, 1000%. This does not happen on accident.
Right. So I mean, it does help that whole, this celebrity doesn't really run their own Instagram account. No.
Oh no.
I think he does. Yeah.
Or his wife, who's like the social media.
That's true.
No,
yes.
But it's very much his voice. Anything he posts.
Well, yeah, and this was his personal account, not the band's. Okay.
No, it's him.
So this was just intentional, knowing that Instagram would take this down?
I would think. Or
I mean, to your previous point about whether or not I would have appreciated this being texted to me, the answer is yes. I would have preferred a bit of a heads up.
Well, that's
like, hey, brace yourself.
This is coming.
Yeah.
But because it was so early, that was the other thing.
Right.
If I had held on to it and sent it later, I could have given a heads up. But chances are, I would have had to tell you and then send it, and you wouldn't have been awake yet. So the heads up would have done nothing because you would have just it.
And
it was unavoidable.
The little drummer, right?
Yeah.
It just, wow.
And the thing is, I mean, truly, if you're Tommy Lee, you're gonna post it. Why wouldn't you?
Right. You've got two skills in this world.
That's exactly right.
So what are the odds that Vince Neil is just banging his head against a wall somewhere right now, being like, I should have done this?
Oh, poor Vince.
Do you think he's shouting at the devil?
I think Vince is.
Or is he just in the theater of pain right now?
He is definitely in the theater of pain right now.
How does one start being a sword swallower? Is this something you always wanted to do?
It's not something that I always wanted to do. I was a bit of the playful daredevil as a child. I was shown Jackass. I was shown Ripley's Believe It or Not. I watched swashbuckler films, all the stunts. I watched Crocodile Hunter. So there was a bit of a danger factor to it, but it's something that one decides to do after they see somebody do it and see, in my particular case, see what reaction the audience gave for it, and thought, you know what, let's give it a shot.
So how does one begin?
How does one begin?
Yeah.
Do you just...
Is it like a butter knife first, or how does this start?
Yeah, that's one of the most typical questions I get.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For me in particular, I already had a collection of swords. I took one and I dulled it down, which then that's another question right there. They are not sharp. Like nobody should swallow a sharp sword more than once. I didn't know that at the time. I just figured I'd learn how to swallow a dull sword, and if it's sharp, I'll figure that out later.
Okay.
But yeah, took a sword out of my collection, dulled it down, and then just started poking the back of my throat until it went down.
Wow, that's amazing.
Now, I'm sure everybody you talk to prefaces it all with, you shouldn't try this at home. This is a terrible idea. But did you have any other instruction? Was this like just Googling, how do you swallow a sword? And
just went for it.
No, I watched a old Renaissance fair performer by the name of Johnny Fox for years and years and years, and thought, what else is there to it? And so I am completely self-taught. There was no Google search. There are no videos, no personal teacher, no books. I plainly took a sword and leaned my head back and poked the back of my throat until it went down, like focusing my mind. And this is, for the record, not trying to inspire anybody else to try this, because I also
yes,
doing this. So yeah, don't try it. But that's how I did it.
What was it? Because you were saying, all the other things you're exposed to. What was it about the audience reaction to sword swallowing as opposed to a different crazy feat?
With sword swallowing, you get a whole roller coaster of emotions from the audience. That sometimes with the certain different shaped swords that I do, I sometimes get to hear. But I like to describe them as the no evil monkeys. Is you get the cover of the eyes, I can't watch. You get the hands on the side of the head, oh my God, this is amazing. Or the hand over the mouth, like, oh my God, like I can't look away. Like it's disturbing, but I can't look away. So there you go, the no evil monkeys.
Makes sense.
Again, it also, I feel like, should be pointed out, there's no trick to this.
You
actually swallowed a sword.
Yeah, there are magicians out there that do perform sword swallowing with a trick sword. They have the special ones that roll up like one of those snap armbands.
Yep. Let's name them.
Call them out. The fake sword swallowers.
But
otherwise, it's a real stunt. Like it's actual mind over matter of controlling all the muscles between the mouth and the stomach to nudge everything to the side and open up and allow something that is not supposed to be going down there.
And so I think the easy joke is to make something about a gag reflex, because I look at a dentist and I start to kind of heave a little bit. But what are the other muscles? Where do you get that sort of resistance from just easily sliding straight down? And how do you even do that as far as controlling what you're, what you got to move and what you got to relax?
Right. So the interesting thing that I found out about this is that there are multiple gag reflexes. There is the first one, the initial one, that's the back of your throat, the uvula. That is if you poke that with your toothbrush, or if you push your steak too far in the back, like it's your body's defense mechanism. The immediate one, they begin to choke, you cough it out. But then there's the different ones of like the epiglottis, which is that trap door that separates between your respiratory tract and your digestive tract. Like that one, like poking that one will initiate the gag reflex. There's the multiple sphincters. There's in the up in the chest and towards the tummy, the opening of the stomach. Like those will initiate the gag reflex, as well as poking the pit of the stomach, which sometimes there's acid reflux. Sometimes it is just pushing right back up and initiating, again, another gag reflex.
So there are multiple times along one sword swallow that your body is saying, do not do this.
Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Well, and that's like, was it just a vast realization when you said that it literally goes into your stomach? Like, I've never thought of it actually going that far.
No, it actually does. It's so interesting too, is because of interesting privilege that I've had is I am married to an X-ray tech. So
of course you are.
yeah, so I've talked to her about this, and I've talked to doctors, and I haven't gotten an X-ray yet. That's something that's on my list of things to do once we get past HR. But but it is interesting how it actually does go into my stomach, measuring up the sword, like sizing that up to myself and seeing that is where the stomach is, and how the esophagus isn't straight, so it is pulling everything to the center and nudging organs to the side, including pulling the opening to the stomach to the center in order to get to the pit of the stomach.
So once you knew that you could do this, what was it that made you go, oh, I'm doing this full force now?
What made me decide was how quickly I got it down, because
born for it.
Right. Well, it was like born for it, or it's just like this is something that I have a knack for. It's like I already enjoyed the audience reaction that I saw other sword swallowers get, and then I love to entertain myself. Before I swallowed a sword, I was already juggling. I was cracking whips. I was eating fire. I was balancing objects on my face. I was already an entertainer. And some of the best advice I've ever gotten is find what you love doing, find something you're good at. Hopefully that's one and the same, and then find a way to make money doing that. And so sword swallowing, I got it down faster than most self-taught sword swallowers do. It takes several months to several years to get the first sword down if you do not have an instructor or like a good instructor for that matter. Yeah. And I got my first one down after a month and a half of practicing.
Wow. What kind of injuries did you go through in that month and a half of figuring out how to not do this?
So thankfully, I didn't go through anything too severe in the month and a half of training. There were some nicks where there's a little bit of blood in the saliva. There was also the what we call the sword throat. It feels very much like you're coming up with a cold. But it's not mucus that's doing that. It is literally scratching the living daylights out of your esophagus. So feeling that pain. But yeah, again, nothing too serious. Like there was a little bit of chest pains because when the sword goes down, it literally does have to nudge my heart off to the side. Like you can actually feel my heartbeat if you were to touch the sword. And
whoa,
yeah. That's crazy.
Crazy. So, like, I was feeling all those sort of things, but thank God I didn't actually, like, puncture or severely scratch anything. That came later.
So, sword throat. Some sort of, like a Dayquil, does that get rid of that? Or does that, you just got to suffer through it and get it healed? Yeah. Oh, Ricola?
Ricola.
Yeah, it's like, because interestingly enough, because I was suggested, like cough drops or ginger, like they were thinking that it was mucus, like it was like actual, like a viral sore throat going on. No, it really wasn't. It was, it really is just irritation and actual like scratching on in there. So what really helped me was honey, bread, milkshakes, eggs, and hot soup. Like getting a nice miso soup always helped out with that one.
That helps with everything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. Between that, and milkshakes, you're good.
Yeah. Do you like French toast? So this is a weird question, but since we're on food, do you like French toast?
I love French toast.
Does it taste like a sword?
No.
I feel, okay, my entire life, French toast has tasted like metal to me. And I need someone else to agree with me that it tastes like metal. You clearly are not the person who's going to do that. Never mind.
Yeah. It's funny because I also, like, that's another common question I get, which is how do the swords taste? And the typical joke that I use in my show, which is it tastes like my grandmother's silverware drawer mixed with a failed acting career. This makes sense.
Yeah. I like it. That works.
Yeah, but sometimes they have a variety of tastes. Mine's sometimes taste like mint because I wash them with mouthwash.
Because you actually clean them.
That makes.
I'm very excited about sword hygiene. Like, that's a big deal. Like, keeping the swords clean is important.
Well, it's interesting, like keeping them clean as well, because it is important to keep them clean, and especially in transportation. I should clean them more often than I usually do. It's which, like I've heard in the past, like, what's the point? The dirtiest part of your body is from your mouth to your stomach.
Yeah, but
Some people
still.
might argue otherwise. But yeah, I do clean them pretty regularly with either it's Listerine or vodka.
Both worthy.
I just like to imagine you having one of those really long blue watery things that the barbers keep their scissors in.
Oh, like the
Yeah.
Barbasol. or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, exactly. So, how many swords do you do in a show, and how do you vary what you're doing?
At the very least, I do 10 swords a show.
At the
And
same
they-
time, or
Not at the same time. No, I'm not that good. Yeah. Or that
crazy.
ambitious for that matter.
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Like because I'll do up to 5 swords at a time, or like at the same time. Anything beyond that gets no extra applause. There's no point. But I do have like different sword swallowing stunts that I'll add or I'll subtract depending on how much time I have in the show. Because my typical gig is a Renaissance fair. I have 4 shows a day doing that, and I'll do at the very least 10 swords, different routines every sword. Like I'll have different shaped ones, like the serpentine blades, very, very squiggly back and forth. I have the curved sword. I do the drop, which is I place the blade a quarter of the way in and I let go and let drop. And there's various different combination stunts that I do with this. So yeah, like I pack out a full-on show with mostly sword swallowing.
You get that first sword in. Are the next 4 just, is that easier or is it harder to do more?
Well, it's like I place them, I fit them all together and I put them all in at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the real danger there is them scissoring on the way in, because that can catch.
Yeah. Okay.
I've tried putting them in one at a time, and it works. But the other method of just all of them at the same time is my preference.
Now, when this goes wrong, it seems to me like it can go very wrong.
Yes.
How early into it are you like, this is not what it should be? That you know you've messed up.
I'm all the wiser nowadays, like that my body will tell me before it goes wrong. I'm able to know, and thankfully my body knows to do that because I've had that accident.
Right.
I did perform a show. It was a couple years into my sword swallowing career, so I'm still pretty green. And it stopped about halfway, and it was a live performance, so I thought, like, I can't not do this because the audience is going to not sympathize with me. That's very wrong. They will sympathize. They care about my safety. They don't want to see blood. Unfortunately, that day I thought I better push it through instead of pulling it out and try again. Pushed, it hurt. I felt the injury, pulled the sword out. There was blood, like quite a bit of it all over the blade. So therefore, the audience saw blood. They got worried about my safety. I had to convince the audience that it was a gag, that I pulled a fast one on them, so they wouldn't worry.
And you finished the show?
That was the show. That was done.
I was
You
gonna
can't
say.
top that.
I didn't even pass.
There is no encore. Oh,
Wow.
crazy. So do you do the whole Renfest circuit? Do you travel all over the country, or do you?
I do.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's like I actually just got finished with the Colorado Renaissance Fair,
Okay.
and I'm currently on the road, heading up to Washington State for the Washington Midsummer Renaissance Fair. Gonna be doing that for the next couple of weeks. Thanks. And, but yeah, it's like I performed in Vegas. I was in Arizona. I was in Texas, Colorado, and now doing Washington. Gonna do Utah, and then finishing out my season in California.
Wow, that's amazing. What do you do in the off season?
The off season, if I even have an off season.
I was gonna say there isn't much.
Wrapping a giant Band-Aid.
Yeah. The whole idea is to not have an off season, but yeah, I do have an off season, for the while. I work on other skills, other hobbies, because I'm also a knife thrower and a whip cracker and a juggler. So it's like I practice all of those.
Don't forget blockhead.
Blockhead, yeah, that's one of the things that you learn in Sideshow. And I'll perform local shows. I'll go out and I'll busk. And I'll play around with other hobbies like this particular off season. I plan to dive a little bit deeper into gunslinging, as well as there's the whole gun spinning thing, as well as try to get into some axe throwing competitions.
Sweet.
I was going to ask if you had any normal hobbies like crosswords or, Sudoku. No, it's just gunslinging and
axe throwing. Yeah, I do. It's like because I read, I write, I play video games, and it's like I do. I cook, I make cocktails.
Yeah, but you're probably hammering like a nail up your nose while you're doing those things. Let's just be honest.
No, absolutely not. I don't do that off the clock.
I leave work at work, weirdo.
Right.
Well, that's the funny thing is people ask again. Another common question that comes into this is people ask if I actually enjoy doing this, if I actually enjoy swallowing swords or hammering nails into my face or eating fire or anything like that, anything that has to do with like potential bodily harm. And the answer is no. I actually don't enjoy the actual act of swallowing a sword. It's one of the most uncomfortable feelings I've ever felt in my life.
Would imagine.
The only reason I do it is because people will pay me to do it. I'm making a full living doing this, and people will watch. So that's the whole reason. But
and you're clearly good at it.
Thank you. Worked for the past 9 years.
Yeah.
So is every show just like, all right, once more into the breach, let's go? Or
it is like a bit of that, like once more into the breach, like but never getting into my mind of doubt that this will ever not work. It's like an immediate thought of like, I'm going out there, there's an audience wanting to see this go right, and that's what I'm going to deliver, because the precursor to failure is doubt. Like if I doubt I can do this, I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm assuming too, the thing that kind of helps make it all a little more enjoyable is the fact that you're watching your reaction. Like most people don't get a reaction at work to what the reaction you get at work, that you can tell instantly, this is working, this is not working, I need to play this up, I need to dial back on this. Like you can kind of work with an audience and really play them as much as any of the other things you're doing in the show.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, I can compare it to what my wife does. She's an x-ray tech. She's actually one of the best x-ray techs in California. And and she will take these shots with the C-arm and everything for the doctor, right where the doctor tells her to do so. She'll get absolutely no reaction from the doctor or anybody else in the room, because everybody's focused and whatnot. But she'll take the most perfect picture of it. And yeah, sort of thing. Like you're not getting the reactions in that job, like the reactions you get in mine.
Sure,
right.
That's true.
Have you ever tried telling an X-ray tech? Can we do that again? I think my eyes were closed. They do not think it's funny.
No.
No. Don't ask me how I know.
Yeah.
So a normal show for you runs what? Half hour, 60 minutes?
Yeah, rough. Anywhere between 25 minutes to 40 minutes.
All right. And how much stuff do you fit into that? I mean, I feel like you could spend easily a full show talking about swords and showing what you're doing and kind of really driving home the fact that this is a skill, not a trick.
Right. Yeah, you'd be surprised of how much and how little of an attention span some audiences have. Like luckily enough, like I do have what some people have described of what I do as a one-trick pony, but I do it in so many different ways that it does.
You have a lot of ponies, let's be honest.
Right, there are a lot of ponies. I do have variety in my show as well. I'm a variety impalement artist. Like that's my overall title. Every act that I perform involves a dangerous weapon or a sharp and pointy object. And I typically start out the show either like cutting targets with a bullwhip, or I'm juggling various different big bladed weapons, or I eat some fire, or a new one that I've added recently is walking up and down a staircase of swords barefoot. Again, very, very new to that one. But I'll do that as a warm up, as a precursor to the show, and then go into sword swallowing for the next 20 or so minutes of all these different shapes of swords and combination stunts.
I love that that's the warm-up.
Yeah.
Like,
You have
let's
to be
just,
eating out of your hand at the end of that.
Right?
Yeah,
Jeez,
they have fun with it.
That's
oh,
amazing. And how much practice do you put into something before you add something new into the show?
A lot of practice. I mean, I have to do it 100% successfully right before putting it into the show. Which, I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer. But you'd be surprised at how many people are just like, okay, I'm just gonna wing it. We're gonna give this a shot. I've seen so many performers do that and fail. But yeah, it's like I gotta make it like absolutely right. Especially like when I'm working on now, like adding to the show something that I actually really do enjoy doing, which is knife throwing. Like actually, I have to do that absolutely right every single time, or else it does not go into the show.
yeah.
And there's no trick to that, I'm assuming.
Oh,
You
yeah,
are legit throwing knives across the stage.
Yeah, because again, there are magicians that have the special boards, which the knives pop out of the board. But no, I actually have the dedication, focus, and accuracy to put a pretty lady up against the board in her various poses, or holding a balloon out of her mouth or out of a hand, and I'll throw the knife and I'll stick it exactly where I want it to, and she'll survive through the next show.
I can imagine, like, I would actually trust you to throw a knife, because if you know how to maneuver a sword around your organs, you know how to place a knife when you throw it.
It also helps I'm a juggler as well. It's like I have enough hand-eye coordination.
Although,
But
like,
also,
kinda-
your insurance salesman has got to just be rubbing his hands when he sees you
he's-
walk in the door.
Yeah, you bought that guy a yacht.
Uh,
For sure. There is a yacht with your name on
Yeah,
it
yes,
somewhere
a
in the
Cyrus is
Mediterranean.
somewhere.
Yes. But I would have loved it if your answer to Luke would have been like, "Oh no, I would never risk actually throwing knives. I mean, those are totally the pop outs. I'll put one deep into my soul, but I would never throw one."
I'll tell you this: like another reason why I do these sort of stunts, is I suck at magic. Like I've actually tried, to be really not good, and I'm lazy. I'm an impatient. I'm a Capricorn, and so I literally want instant gratification with these things, and with these different stunts and performances, and then because magic, I tip my hat to all magicians. And it's like I'm never saying that I'm doing this because I hate magic. No, I love magic. It's just it takes so much time and dedication, and for a single trick, and they do dozens upon dozens of tricks in a single show. Each have to be prepped up and then performed convincingly that it is real, that something impossible is happening, and go into that. I don't have the patience for that. I had the patience to could repeatedly jab the back of my throat with a sword until it went down, and try to make a whole long variety comedy show out of it.
So the knife throwing came from, I'm too lazy to try to build a board that knives pop out of, so I'll just do it for real.
Well, it's like I'm lazy, but also I don't have the knowledge. I'm not that
fair
guy for that.
Yeah.
Like I did the knife throwing was purely that's actually out of comic books, out of movies and comic books. I always loved like the projectile thing. One of my favorite comic book anti-heroes, you could say now, is Bullseye, and I've just always loved the knife throwing in the Wild West sort of show sort of thing. Again, comes with the gun spinning, the gunslinging, and archery and throwing knives. Yeah, I've just always loved doing that, and there's something satisfying about the thunk of the knife sticking into the board. It's like, and you did that. It's very, very, very satisfying.
Well, and the fact too that, again, like you said, no slight to magicians, there is no trick to this. This is all skill. Like a magician's skill is something that you are not supposed to see. You're not supposed to see how good they are at what they're doing. It is well on display as like, no, appreciate. Look at this. I did this and I didn't kill myself. I did this. I didn't injure this person. Isn't life great?
Oh yeah, and then also the big point is I can now do it again immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
Magicians can't do the same trick. Well, they can't often do the trick. There are some tricks that magicians are so good with their sleight of hand and they're good with their preparation that they can do it again and again, and people still don't get the trick. But that's not often. I can do mine immediately again, and you have people scratching their heads of like, how did he do it? But it's not a question of how I do it. It's a question of why.
Right. Yeah. It's perfect. This is why I thought it'd work well, because the title of the show, and then I read that on the bio. I'm like, come on, this is meant to be.
We're like, he gets it. Amazing.
So where are you heading to after Washington? You said California, is that right?
I'm going to do a weekend down in Utah, like a little 1 weekend Renaissance fair there, and then gonna have a little vacation time, and then do some local gigs, and then start doing Northern California Renaissance Fair.
I would love to see you and your wife like by a pool at some hotel somewhere, and then people start talking to you, and what do you do for a living? Like, oh, I'm an x-ray tech. And what do you do? Oh, well, I swallow swords and throw knives. And I just would love to see people be like, wait, what? Choking on their pina coladas.
at parties and like if she and I like go to a wedding where we know nobody,
yes,
or meeting somebody at the bar, or we always have like some interesting conversations.
I love it.
It's amazing. Yeah.
That's so fun. I used to make up jobs at the bar to do that. So I'm imagining it being real and you actually being able to tell people. It's awesome.
Cyrus is out swallowing swords all across this great country of ours. For more information, check out his website, cyruspynn.com. You can also find him on Instagram and Facebook, where he is at Sideshow Cy, CYDESHOWCY.
You can check us out on all the various socials. Be sure to visit our website, and don't forget to leave us a review.
Today's show is produced by myself and Heidi Hedquist. Our reluctant producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?